Welcome again to Strange Brow Radio. My name, you know it, Tobe Johnson, and today we are playing part 2 of episode 114, Family Communion, with our husband and wife witness. And I will remind you where we left off in part 1. Thanks again to our sponsors over at Feral by Aaron, E-R-Y-N. Check it out at the Etsy shop where you can find the ever-present alchemy sound tools. Busy time of year. If you haven't purchased an alchemy sound tool or don't know quite what an alchemy sound tool is, well, go to Etsy, type in Feral by Aaron, E-R-Y-N. They are museum quality drums, rattles, and you can't really play a smudge fan, but you can smudge your instruments with it. Check it out over at Feral by Aaron over at Etsy. Okay, we'll be right back with part 2. Well, the holiday season doth approach. And first in order is Thanksgiving. Pray for me if I have to head home for the holidays. Oh, it's not bad. Maybe it's much better than what you have in store. I don't know what all you kids and kiddies are doing out there in podcast land, but maybe you find yourself heading south for the holidays via plane, train, or automobile. It can be a hectic time for most as they're fighting over gravy and stuffing and dark meat. Maybe you have a vegetarian Thanksgiving. That sounds actually very sad. Yeah, I can imagine what politics might be played over at the vegetarian Thanksgiving dinner. I probably shouldn't go there. Anyway, we are playing part 2 of our double episode here, Family Communion, with her husband and wife. Now, last we left the male of the household. He was having a close encounter of a furry kind, or a hairy kind, in Northern California. And so I remember that day when I spoke to this witness back oh so long ago, circa 2009 or 10, I think. And he still tells the story the same way you're about to hear it. Vivid details. In fact, his details over the brow ridge, I want you to listen specifically to those. It's burned in his brain, along with everything else here. So let's join our previous conversation with our witness regarding exactly what he saw all those years ago in a Sasquatch encounter.
And I took off running. That was my encounter.
And how close do you estimate you were?
Like right in its face, Toby. I could have touched it.
So less than 10 feet.
5, 6 feet. Not very far at all. 4 feet.
Mm-hmm. And what do you remember seeing?
It looked like the old King Kong, kind of. Grayish skin, very wrinkled, old. Kind of looked like it had eczema or something on the brow ridge. I don't know. I remember a piece of flaky skin.
Right.
Black eyes that stuck out like a rat's eyes or something. They weren't, I didn't really notice any eyelids.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember how thick the brow ridge was. It was like a solid inch. It seemed like a solid inch all the way across. 2 black eyes, and then the nose had these little wrinkle lines going down it, like, when you scrunch your nose or something.
Right.
Skin was grayish. Hair was brownish gray. It did have the peak. It didn't have any hair on its face.
Right. So you saw the whole face?
I saw the shape of the whole face, but I was mostly like transfixed with its eyes, and it was sitting behind some brush still. It was sitting in the brush. The top of its head and like from its nose up were the most clear part.
Right.
I didn't try it. After I realized what I was looking at, After a second, I jumped back. I wasn't trying to like study and see what it looked like, because it was like coming face to face with a bear or something. Because at first I thought I'm looking for a squirrel or a lizard. Well, not a lizard, but a squirrel or a bird.
Right. And so you jump back and you take off, and there's no pursuit or anything?
No, I stopped running. I ran the wrong way up the hill. And this thing, I thought it went up the hill, but in hindsight, it must have went down the hill. Because when it went through the brush, it was crashing. It's like someone was just driving a truck through the brush. It had to jump off the ledge and through the brush, because I can't really imagine an animal voluntarily running through brush that fast. Because it's the way it was crashing through the stuff. You would think it would have got impaled by a stick.
And so I didn't know that part of the story, by the way, that you actually heard it leave.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, after it woofed at me, or it made that kind of sound, I jumped back, and that's when I just took off running and ran in the wrong direction up the hill, and I had my stick trailing behind me, because my plan was just to tuck and roll and have this stick come, as a spear behind me or something, because I thought this thing was coming after me.
Okay, so you get back to camp and where the cars are parked, and what happens then?
I told my brother what happened, and it was getting dark, and I'm like, dude, I just saw Bigfoot. And he's like, huh? Kind of not sure and in disbelief. And I grabbed my rifle, got the camera. I brought a sword and a spear with me. When we were going to go camping.
Nice work, Gilbert.
Well, you know all the stuff I have. I mean, I've got suits of armor and all kinds of crap. And after seeing the tracks, I knew what was up there. I didn't want to go unprotected. I don't know why I didn't bring anything with me. I didn't bring anything with me on that walk because, A, I didn't think I was going to see anything. I didn't want my shit getting ruined by the rain.
Right.
But after that, I did not care about the rain. And I would leave, but he already had the camp all set up. We would have had to unpack, and it was starting to freeze up. It stopped raining by the time I got down there.
Oh, so did you end up staying the night?
Yeah, because the roads just turned to ice. The table froze up. I mean, we had I want to say an inch of ice everywhere.
So you're staying in a tent moments before you see a Bigfoot. What's that?
Oh, no, it wasn't moments. This was probably hours after. It took me an hour to get back to camp because it took me about an hour to get up to where I saw it.
Oh, so you really went on a solo
hike.
Yeah,
for me it was just a walk. Once I start walking, I tend to wander. But it seemed like it took longer to get back than it did to get up there. It probably took less.
And so nothing happened that whole night?
It was about 4:30. I don't know what time it was when I got back, but I seem to remember it was about 4 when I left. I know after I got back, it got dark real quick. That's why I had second thoughts about leaving. I didn't want to stay.
Well, no, sleeping there overnight, knowing what you'd just seen, even if it was an hour earlier. Nothing happened that night? Were you capable of sleeping?
No, nothing happened. Well, like I said, we had a cord of wood, and I built a huge fire. Even though it had been raining, it lit up because most of the wood was dry. I had a bag full of glow sticks that I had broken up and threw all around the campsite. It was lit up like a landing zone. And if I would have saw anything walk past the glow stick, I'd have shot it.
Wow. Okay, so nothing happened. No stick breaks, no chatter, no whoops, no knocks. Night. No. Interesting.
No. Well, it dropped so cold. We were freezing.
All right.
I don't think anything was out that night after that. But no, nothing came out that night. I mean, but in the morning, I mean, I just, got as much, as soon as we had light, I tore things down, stuffed everything back in the truck, soaking wet, and we left. Slowly.
Now, is that your last Sasquatch encounter in California?
That was the last time I've ever seen one, and the last time I've ever been camping.
Well, sort of.
Well, yeah,
I
but
tried a couple times to get you out. Yeah, right. Now, okay, so to fill in the blanks here, I hear the condensed version of what you all heard at the pizza parlor, and then we do these monthly get-togethers once a month where Bigfoot witnesses come before Bigfoot and beer and pizza, and then the friendship ensues, and we go out in the woods a couple times. And I did try to convince you to stay the night, but you had a pretty traumatic experience. I don't know too many people that were less than 10 feet away from a Sasquatch that could possibly had a size 24-inch foot.
Well, no, the one I saw wasn't the big one, because what I saw while it was sitting down was maybe about 4 feet tall while sitting down, because I was kneeling, when I went underneath the tree and into the brush, I was kneeling down, looking for a bird or a squirrel just to see what it was. And when I, saw the dark shape in the back of the brush sitting there and I looked up, when I got eye to eye to it, it was about as high as I am. Just picture yourself standing up, stooped over, looking down. And then you just look up straight ahead. It was about that tall.
Okay.
Sitting down.
And did you go back and do like a follow-up the next day in that area?
Oh, fuck no, dude.
Okay. All right.
No way, dude.
It wasn't happening.
No, we threw everything in the truck and I got out of there.
Right. Okay. So then I meet you, and you're living up in Bigfoot country again. And we start talking about Sasquatch, end up going to a couple of hot spots, follow up on one of your neighbors that had a sighting that turned into a real legitimate area up near the Three Sisters Wilderness in the High Cascades in the Willamette National Forest. And that really was the beginning of, the veil being ripped in half, and all the strangeness unfolding as far as the lights that I witnessed. These areas that you introduced me to were where the paranormal kind of shifted my perspective, that there was more going on in the woods than just Bigfoot. And so let's talk about what's going on at your house now, because by no means has the phenomena that you've just heard settled down. In fact, because of COVID and everything going on and some health issues, we've just kind of been out of contact. But right before we lost contact and I was living in Oregon, there was some really interesting stuff that happened, including you and I were out on an adventure, we'll say, in the snow line and wandered up behind a remote secondary lake that not too many people go to. I mean, it is accessible by cars, and the snow, I believe, was just getting ready to melt. And you and I found above a decommissioned Buck's restroom above this lake what looked like small boot prints in the snow, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, but explain why it was interesting what we found with these little boot prints.
Well, they were about the size of a toddler, and they almost looked like Neil Armstrong's boot print. But I remember there were two sets of boot prints, though. Do you remember that, Toby?
Right, and they were coming down the hill from a very remote area, and they were sunk down no more than 4 inches in about 3 feet of snow, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But there was no way anybody could have got a kid up there. I mean, we were struggling to climb up that.
Yeah.
I mean, who's going to have their kid? And there were no adult prints, remember? It was just little child-sized prints coming out of the woods, coming off the mountain down towards the, I would say, the camp or parking area.
And this was before everyone had a smartphone. I mean, maybe I had a flip phone at that time, but about the size of a Pepsi can, I would say these prints were. And they were just horizontal, exactly Neil Armstrong-type moon boot prints coming down the hill. And there were two separate ones coming down this hill. And
there were also animal prints with them. There were deer tracks with them, too.
Okay, and that's interesting because we're going to talk about... Let's fast forward now, and the reason we're bringing this up is that you have a gated home, and you ended up finding around your house something very similar. So describe what you found in the snow years later after that.
Okay, I live on a compound. I have dual 6-foot fences, chain link, with a 6-foot cedar fence right next to it, all the way around my property. And it's a little over an acre, so it's a good area. My neighbors also have the same. The reason I have the dual fence is I have a 6-foot fence. My neighbor has a 6-foot fence. The neighbor behind me has a 6-foot fence. On the other side, I have the old elk guard fence and then 6-foot chain link fence. And the front, I got cedar and 6-foot. It's just huge fence all the way around the property. There's no really getting in or out of the property. Unless you're hopping the fence, and it's kind of obvious if you are. But every time we have deep snow, we find footprints. And, my backyard's pretty good size. You've seen it. There's an open area that's probably about 50 feet wide and 150 feet long. So you got a nice plain of snow. My kids' trampoline's out there, and then further down the yard, they got their pool. Then there's the chicken coop and stuff like that. But out in the middle of this plain of snow, my wife finds what she called pygmy tracks. And she said, "Come here, look at these pygmy tracks." And I go out there and look, and there's the same kind of tracks, but a different boot track. This just looked like a little tiny cowboy boot. And this is about 1.5 foot, 2 foot of snow, fresh powder. And these came, there was no way these could have came across that plain of snow other than land from out of the sky, Toby. And right next to them were like pony tracks. Like a pygmy and his pony came out of the sky and landed in the snow. And they were able to walk on top of the snow because those tracks only sunk down about an inch or two. They went around the kids' trampoline, circled the pool, went down to the chicken coop, came back up, circled our house, circled my mom's house, and then just ended. There was no entry where they came from. They just came out of nowhere, and they disappeared out of nowhere. They didn't leave the yard. They didn't come in from outside the yard.
Okay, then what happened?
What, in Snowmageddon?
No, after you find these tracks, what happened after that regarding your mother?
My mom, who was getting old, we came home from getting groceries, and she said a little boy was knocking on her door. And I'm like, what do you mean a little boy was knocking on your door? I was terrified of him. He was the scariest little boy. And I'm like, what are you talking about? How did a little boy get in the yard? And I was starting to get upset because I thought she was just messing with me. And then she started getting upset because I wasn't believing her. And she said, no, there was a little boy here. He was wearing a wool hat. He was wearing a wool jacket, wool pants, and black boots. And I said, well, where did this little boy go? I'm like, what do you mean? I'm still in disbelief because I'm like looking at the front gate, looking around the yard, how is a little boy? I'm like, okay, well, how tall was he? And he was shorter than the doorknob. She pointed to their doorknob, and that's less than 3 feet height. Her doorknob's not that high. It's just a regular doorknob. Look, the doorknob on your house, shorter than that by about 2 or 3 inches. She said she watched him walk along the fence in front of her house, not the front gate, but the fence. The highest part of the fence. You know the part of the fence where my neighbors got like that 10-foot tall fence next to mine, Toby?
No, but I know that we should explain here quick that your mother lives on the property behind the 6-foot tall wire gated fence that's locked,
Yes,
right? She's
yes. I have two
in
houses on the property.
Yeah, she's in the compound with you.
Correct.
And you're getting home and the gate's locked, and
Yeah,
somehow there's a little child that's knocked on the door.
Yes. And she opened this door and said, "You have to leave." And the dogs were going nuts. She said, "These dogs will bite you. Get out, leave my property." And then she said she watched him walk up and down the side of the fence and then just vanish.
Okay.
I'm like, what do you mean vanish?
Yeah.
He just disappeared. I didn't see him anymore. Like, what? Did he go outside the fence? She thought, I don't know. I could not see him anymore. And at this point, she was getting irritated, and I was getting irritated because I didn't know if somebody had sent a kid in to scout the property and see if anyone was home to rob us or, that kind of thing.
Oh,
but
that's so crazy sounding right there. The fact that how soon after this little guy, did she say it was a little boy or did she say little man? Did she say?
She said a boy.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay.
Just a strange little boy that terrified her.
And boots.
Yes, he had black boots.
He had little black boots.
She described them as something like Oxfords. Wow. I'm like, Oxford? What's an Oxford?
I'll have to look that
up. Like some old person shoe,
And so were there tracks leading away? Was there a snow trail then?
No. This was months after the snow had melted. This was about 2 or 3 months after. It might even have been 6 months after. It wasn't too much after.
Okay.
But it was the same year, and it was before summer. So.
Okay. All right. Well, that's news to me. I thought it was relatively soon after you had fallen.
No. If it would, because I would have put 2 and 2 together then.
Yeah.
At the time, I didn't.
Okay.
It was just
Gotcha.
After we had seen the pygmy tracks, I went on with life, and all right.
Right.
Okay.
And then we'll just fast forward here. There's a huge fire that happens after that. There's been a couple fires actually really close to your area. There's giant cougars that have been spotted carrying canines over fences.
Really?
There's lots of UFO stuff. And there's been abductions just down the road from you. People that claim that they've been abducted that I've interviewed.
Oh, geez. See, I didn't know any of this.
Right. You're in a really good hot spot for interaction.
I don't know how good that is, but okay.
Right. So recently, things have started up again, and you bought some cameras. You put cameras all around your house, and they're motion activated, and they're connected to your phone. So what's happening now?
Well, you've seen the video. We're having white balls of light flying around the yard. We got 3 or 4 videos of them. The one ball, but I've told you about the balls of light. You've seen the balls of light before, the orbs, and I've seen them in the yard before years ago too. And we're getting video of them now. One was about, we got a whole crap load of security cameras because as people know, they're starting to get affordable now. For $300 or $400, you can get a lot of security cameras to cover everything. And I was like, if this winter happens and we get a deep snow, because every time we get a deep snow, we get weird footprints. I told you that. The little pygmy Oompa Loompa tracks weren't the only time. So I said, well, let's get ready for this winter. So this year we got a lot of security cameras and we put them around. And my wife, I was going to work, taking a shower, and I came out, and my wife was just like sitting on the couch, staring at her phone, and she was like unconscious, sitting there staring. I'm like, babe, what's going on? She wakes up, snaps out of it. She's all, there's orbs or balls of light flying around the yard. I'm recording it. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? She's like, look. She showed me her cell phone, and at the end of it, she had only captured a piece of it because I guess she was having it. Well, there was interference. You saw the video. There's a ball of light flying across the backyard, shining a beam of light on the ground like it's searching for something. And that was the tail end of what happened to her what happened for a half hour, but she watched it for about 2 minutes because apparently she was watching two orbs search the backyard. And the tail end of the video you can only see is about the last 2 seconds of that one ball of light because it did something to the camera where it damaged the SIM card and damaged that one camera, and we had to replace it. But you can see on the timestamp, she was unconscious or didn't know what happened for a half hour.
Right, and she's not. Is she not in the room with you right now? Is she?
No, she's not.
Okay, all right. She's taking care of business, but
I can bring her in and she can probably carry it on. Babe, you want to tell them about the ball of light?
Right, we'll wait here while you get her. Incredible stories being related by some old friends of mine. I mean, we're only mentioning some of the highlights here from the good old days, I guess they were, but it is an active area. Yeah, so we were picking up here, wife, on the moment where you're watching something scan the ground on the camera, and there's some time that's not accounted for.
Yeah, our cameras are weird, and they like, give you a warning or something.
A signal.
Signal.
Give you an alert.
Yeah, sorry. I'm stressed out because of kids right now. So I got an alert, and I was looking, and there was nothing going on, and then all of a sudden I saw the foxes running, and I saw two balls of light, and I was all, what the heck? So I started trying to hit record, and my phone pretty much refused to record it. I don't know what was going on with that. And then I woke up a half hour later. My husband came out of the shower, and he was like, what are you doing? I was holding my phone. I still had it against my chest. And then we had that little 10-second video where it showed one ball of light. Looks like it's scanning the ground over the fox and then disappears. And I can't find that video now.
I have it on my...
You have... Yeah. Okay.
Okay, but is there a piece of footage missing because it can't be accounted for? Is there a missing timestamp as well? Or explain that part to me. I mean, and I'm hearing the part that you have missing time for up to a half hour.
Yeah.
But what about the video part? Is there missing video as well?
Well, yeah, because it didn't tape everything or show everything that I was looking at. It showed something that I didn't even see. Really, I mean,
right.
I don't even know. I fell asleep or something. I don't know, and I woke up and then that was on the phone, and I mean,
Do you
there
have
was
blackout spells often?
no, never,
Okay, so there's nothing medical going on.
no.
No. Okay. And so you have these anomalies. You try to record them as much as possible. And recently, you saw something in the backyard that was familiar from the days in Bakersfield. So, what did you see the other day?
It was like just a giant black shadow, and I didn't even think it looked that big when I looked at it on the camera, and of course, it didn't record it. But when we checked it out, it was like huge. But I remember it being, just a dark black figure and arms, legs. I mean, they looked like humanoid, I suppose.
What was it doing?
Just taking a stroll down my backyard. I don't know. I mean, it just was walking down one of our favorite trails in our own yard, and it just was there for like a few seconds, and I'm like, what? And I'm trying to hit record, and then it's gone.
Is it clear? Can you see this? Can you see this clearly?
It was clear when I was looking at it, but it didn't record on my camera. So.
Right, and is it moving about with purpose? Is it moving quickly? Is it floating? Is it walking? How's it moving?
It was walking. It was quick, and it was just going between behind the tree, and in between our neighbor's fence and everything.
Right. And no missing time with that one.
No.
Nothing like that. Okay. And the more difficult part of this here too is that there's some anomalies going on with your kids. You sent me some pictures here, things that you can't account for as far as marks on your kiddos. So, do you feel comfortable talking about that?
Well, yeah, as much as possible.
Well, so what have you seen? Because your husband too has had marks on his body.
Yeah, they both had like weird burns. I don't know. It was. I mean, we don't burn stuff. I mean, we have a electric glass top stove, so we're not like. There's no fires or anything
like a
really.
Brand, man.
And he got one like on his forehead, and Sarah,
I had a couple on her back.
She had a couple on her back, and
got one on my leg.
And
right.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the pictures now. I mean, it's reminiscent of kind of a birthmark and a burn at the same time.
Definitely not a birthmark.
Right.
Well, it's a burn, and it's coming off now. I mean, it's...
Well, it's lighter. The picture I sent you is... I just sent it to him yesterday.
Yeah, it's a lot lighter
It's
today.
a lot lighter than it has been. It was, like, really dark.
I thought she had, like, dye on her or something.
Yeah, he thought it was hair dye, but it's not.
Yeah, looking at it now, you can see it's kind of peeling and stuff. It's a burn.
That's what I mean. It doesn't have a scab kind of look. It has kind of that birthmarky, red, purpley look to it. You know,
that's
light colored.
Yeah. So I mean, like she's jumped.
No, she knows you're talking about her.
That's yes, sir.
Yeah.
And so what? Let me. Let me ask your husband here. So what happened to you? What did you find on your? Did you say on your head?
I just woke up in the middle of the night with a terrible burning pain on my head, and there was a diagonal burn going across my forehead.
Was it a band, like a band of burn
It
tissue?
was like a fingerprint, or a finger mark is what it looked like. It was, I'd say about 2.5 inches, or the first two digits of your finger. About 2.5 inches and about a half inch wide, going diagonally across my forehead, and it looked like one, big burn until it finally started to heal, and it left two smaller scabs, so you could tell it was two.
And what would account for that?
I have no idea. Like I said, I was fine before I went to bed. I didn't say that, but I was fine before I went to bed. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, I had that burn on my head. And then about 2 or 3 years later, I had the exact same kind of burn on my leg.
Mm-hmm.
And I woke up in the middle of the night with a burn on my leg.
Yeah. Do you ever have any strange dreams at all?
Not lately.
Nothing like that, or sleep paralysis, or anything that
Oh,
seems
yeah,
super...
I get sleep paralysis on occasion.
And what do you mean by that? What kind of sleep paralysis?
Last night I had sleep paralysis, and I was trying to move, and I could hear like a voice talking to something else saying, referring to me as the big guy, and something about his job. It's because of his job. It's because of the big guy's job. And I'm like, what the heck? And I was just, trying to move and wake up. I remember that last night.
Okay, that's
interesting.
interesting.
The big guy.
Uh-huh.
And something about my job. It's because of my job.
Okay.
Which was kind of odd.
Yeah.
In a dream, I don't see myself as the big guy. Or in third person, or...
Right. You're so matter-of-fact about that, like sleep paralysis. Is that normal for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That I've always had issues like that since, as far as I can remember.
And that you've never seen a hypnotherapist or anything?
Nightmares with aliens and stuff, yes. But I've always attributed that to the nightmares and dreams and stuff.
Right. Okay. But do you ever have nightmares and then have marks on your body?
I don't think so.
Nothing like that.
I'll tell you later.
Okay. Well, nobody knows who you are. You can tell me now,
No, I'll tell you later. I don't want this recorded.
Okay. Well, a serious note here. Okay. Well, what else? Anything else I need to know? And did I miss any details?
Other than we're getting lots of videos of balls of light flying around the yard. They seem to be associated with the fox, so they really like them. Because you saw that one video where it just flies by him and then comes back and hovers over his head for a minute and takes off, and he doesn't even seem to know it's there. But I didn't know that the balls of light and the shadow were associated with the fox, too.
Well, the shadow's the first time I saw it was whatever.
Yeah, but as soon as you saw the shadow, then the fox came.
Right.
At least on the video you showed me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you feeding the fox because it's
we have. We see all kinds: kittens, cats, foxes.
Well, we just started seeing the cats and the kittens. We've been feeding the foxes.
Right.
We call them the chihuahuas.
You might be feeding more than you know.
Well, unfortunately, I think the issue.
Yeah.
Do they like pizza?
Yes, everything seems to love pizza. I don't even know. The foxes love the pizza. They get mad.
The cats, everything.
Yeah.
Crows.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know. Yeah, we have
chipmunks.
a murder of crows.
Now, you said that something came across your roof of your house. What was that?
Yes.
On you. Yeah.
That is why I have one of the security cameras watching the roof of the house. Just one night, I was in bed. I don't know. It was probably about midnight or something. I heard a loud bang on the roof above me, and it sounded like a kid run across the roof towards the living room. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I thought maybe it was a storm or something, blew a branch or something. But what was the running sound? Then I thought maybe did a mountain lion jump on the roof? I couldn't figure out what it was. The next day I walked outside. There was no branches. It was such a loud bang, Kobe. It was like a branch fell off a tree and hit the house. But there was nothing.
No.
I searched the property. There was nothing on the roof.
And was it windy that evening?
No, there was no wind.
No.
That I could tell.
Right.
But whatever made that bang wasn't on the roof. If there would have been something blown onto the roof, it would have been, would have been there. There's 50-foot clearing at least all the way around my house on each side.
And you also said that you had some electronic anomalies with voice hijacking. Explain that moment where you heard something.
When I was in Bakersfield, I had seen a UFO, the ball of light, and I sent my wife a voicemail. Well, it was a ball of light, and I was looking at it, and genius me, I went and grabbed my floodlight, and I started blinking Morse code at it. And then it shot up into the sky. And because at first I wasn't sure if I was looking at an airplane or a star, but all doubt was removed when it shot up into the sky. And I called my wife. She was up in Oregon at the time because I was selling our house down there, and she was staying up at her grandma's with Bree. And the voicemail on her phone said that she's, hi, you're trying, I don't want to give her name away, but I'm with Bree. That was her typical voicemail. When I called to tell her that I had seen a UFO, I had just seen one, her voice answered on a voicemail and said, hi, this blah, blah, blah. I'm not here right now, so just leave a message and I'll get back to you. In her voice. But that's not her message on her voicemail. She never got the message I left her, but the very next day, she saw a UFO outside of her grandma's house.
So there's no chance you called the wrong number?
Oh, no.
No. Okay.
And got her message?
I'm just trying to figure out what else it could be.
We had the same, we got phones together, and my name was programmed in his.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
So you didn't even dial. You just hit the usual button.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Interesting. And have you ever had any Men in Black stuff like that? Any kind of government spying on you type stuff at all?
I'm sure they spy on us. But no.
What'd she say?
Not to my recollection.
Not to your recollection. Okay. What about on your recollection there, hubby? Did you say you're sure they spy on us? Who's they, and what do you mean by that?
The government. I'm sure they spy on. We can talk about getting drapes, and then suddenly your phone will send us an advertisement for drapes or something.
Oh, well, that's the Zuckerberg. Zuckerberg keeps track of all of us, so that's probably yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a different Man in Black. Interesting.
Right.
Well, something tells me I'm going to have to come down there and look for tracks in the snow here soon. And if I do, I'll give you guys enough warning, and we'll just point the camera in the right directions.
Well, we have a guest house now, so.
Yeah. I need a little guy knocking at my door at 3 a.m. Not you, big guy.
Not me, no.
Nice. Well, thank you guys for doing this. I'm glad to catch up with you, and I am going to get down that way soon. So I look forward to not only seeing you guys, but checking out the area behind your house, a couple miles up the road, because there's some interesting territory up that way as well. So anyway, I know you guys have a house full you need to get back to, and I just appreciate it so much. Any last words from you guys?
I can't think of anything that we might have missed. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff we could talk about all night. But,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure like your entire life.
yeah,
Through,
pretty
like, 2
much.
hours, babe.
Right. Well, we'll do that again around a campfire over at your house and make this a 2-part series. But thanks again, guys. Have a good evening and be careful. And be careful they have been. We've talked a little bit after this episode, before this episode, and you all pretty much heard the whole story. You heard about 77% of their story. The other percentage, there was a little bit more delicate, and we didn't go there. And we discussed beforehand that we're going to leave the kids out of it, and so we did. But there's some strangeness going on in the background as well. So maybe someday we'll be able to talk about that. Maybe I'll actually get a in-person interview and do a night investigation over at this couple's house. But incredible stuff from both of them, and very bizarre. Now, when it comes to the video and the photographs that we talked about, mainly the Ring camera footage that they have, the IR footage, I will put those videos up as a separate download over at patreon.com/strangebrowradio. And if you know someone who wants to be a member of the podcast because they're not getting their fulfillment of episodes over in the non-members land, well, they can do that over here at patreon.com/strangebrowradio, where I will be doing all of these episodes. Unless it's a vlog or something like that, they will be here at Patreon until we actually move the show over to Idaho. And then we'll pick up the live events and some other surprises as well. Because that's the way it's going to go. Don't really have anything else to say about it at this point. That's it for me. Remember, if you want to be on the show, or heck, if we all want to get together as members and talk about old episodes of shows, and do a round table, let's look into doing something like that. I will put out a message directing that very conversation to happen with all of us. I don't think there's anything else. Have a good week. Have a good, crazy Thanksgiving. And, of course, I will see you in the trees.